One of the things that's intimidating when we start to talk about real estate investing or investors is the buzzwords that they use. Actually, the concepts are not that difficult if you understand the buzzwords. So let's talk a little bit about financing fundamentals, some of the key words that we need to know to understand real estate financing. Every company out there produces two financial instruments that we're familiar with, an income statement and a balance sheet. What surprises some folks is to learn that we as individuals or our families also have an income statement and a balance sheet. In its simplest sense, an income statement is just a listing of revenues or income less the outflow or expenses. And when you sum those two numbers together, if it's a positive number, we call it a profit. If it's a negative number, we call it a loss. That's why sometimes an income statement is also called a P&L statement, a profit and loss statement. They mean the same thing. An income statement is a flow of funds across time. It could be calculated for a month, for a quarter, for a year, but it's what happens over that period of time. What came in, revenue or income, what went out, expenses, and was the result a positive or a negative number. So an income statement is a flow of funds statement across a period of time. Balance sheet's a little bit different. In its most simple sense, a balance sheet is a listing of your assets, the things that you own, less your liabilities, the things that you owe. And when those two numbers are summed together, that's called your net worth. That's how wealth is measured. For example, if we say someone's a billionaire, that means that if we listed all of their assets, subtracted all of their liabilities, what they owe, the resulting number is over $1 billion. They're a billionaire. That's what net worth means. Now, each year I have the privilege of teaching in Chapel Hill at Keenan Flagler Business School. And I talk to my students about these same things. In fact, it's interesting. I ask a lot of them when we start to talk about how the free enterprise system works, why are you here in school? Why are you here at SCHOOL? And their answer is they're here to get a DEGREE so they can get out and get a JOB so they can make some MONEY and start buying some STUFF. Most Americans are really good at that. That silly little chart actually describes the income statement side of life. The income statement side of life is about earning money, spending money on the things that we want and need, and we're pretty good about focusing on the income statement side of life and those types of activities. What's not talked about so much is what results from a focus on that income side of life. Most of the kids get out of school, they get that JOB, they start making some MONEY, and being great Americans, they spend about 105 or 110% of what they make and start running up some DEBT. If you do that long enough, you get to be a millionaire. Ha ha. You owe $1 million, not the millionaire I want to be. Now, how's the free enterprise system supposed to work? Well, it's supposed to work in that we get that job and start making some money, but we live within our means. There's this concept called a budget. We spend less than we make so that at the end of the month or quarter or year, there's some capital left over, some money left over that we've saved that we can begin to invest in the balance sheet side of life. We have to live in a way that we spend less than we make if we're going to have capital to invest in the purchase of assets. It's very important that we begin to focus on our balance sheet early in our working life and begin to acquire assets, hopefully earning assets that will earn us different types of returns. Now, I can tell you that our goal is to acquire more assets, acquire assets that are going to increase in value, maybe swap some things out, but we want to focus on our balance sheet and see our net worth grow so that over time, as we develop a stronger and stronger balance sheet, we get at one point to a place where there's enough cash flow from our balance sheet that we don't have to do the work the job on the income statement side of life. Because I don't care if you're a brain surgeon making $1 million a year or a laborer just barely getting by. When you get to the point where you either can't or don't want to do what you do with your brain and your mouth and your hands, the cash flow from the income statement side of life stops. When you don't do your work, that money doesn't come anymore. And the only way to get to financial independence or financial freedom is through your balance sheet. There's no route to financial freedom through the income statement side of life. It's only through managing our balance sheet and building our net worth that one day we can arrive at what we would call financial freedom or financial independence, or as some people say, retirement. Most Americans do a really good job on working through the retirement part of this process. It's adding that RE that's the trick, and the balance sheet is the key to that. Because that's true, let's focus a little bit about building our balance sheet. It's intuitive, I guess, that if you increase your assets by purchasing and acquiring more assets, or by having assets that appreciate in value, as the value of our asset pool goes up, our net worth also increases. What's not so intuitive is there's a second way to grow your net worth, and that's to reduce your liabilities. If you reduce your liabilities, that also results in an increase in your net worth. And so there are two ways that we can grow our net worth: have our assets become more valuable or reduce our liabilities. If you'd like to learn more about how these financial principles build into developing an investment strategy, I invite you to give us a call, stop by our office, or find us on the web at www.blockrealty.com.